Hello, and welcome to another episode of Heart to Heart. I'm Dr. Jeff Gold, and I have the honor of serving as the president of the University of Nebraska system. And today I have the pleasure to host the series where we connect one-on-one with students, faculty, alumni, and with community leaders across our state. And our guest today that I'm so pleased to introduce to you is Mr. Drew Leisy. Now, Drew is the student body president and the student regent at the University of Nebraska at Omaha. He, of course, is a Nebraska native, born and raised in Bridgeport, Nebraska, and is currently pursuing a degree in business. Upon graduation, Drew tells me he plans to attend graduate school at the University of Nebraska at Omaha as well, and wants to earn a master's degree in either hospital administration or business administration. We're excited to keep him here at the University of Nebraska a bit longer, and hopefully even longer after that. Drew is a great example of student leadership in action, advocating for student needs, cultivating collaboration on campus, and helping to shape decisions that impact the future of our university. So Drew, welcome to Heart to Heart. It's a great pleasure to have you with us today. I always like to start off with some simple questions of, tell us a little bit about your background. You know, of course, we know where you grew up, but, how did you decide that you were even going to go to college, and how did you pick UNO?
Yes. Well, first, Dr. Gold, thank you for having me today. It really means a lot. And I think to kind of answer your question, I really grew up in Bridgeport, Nebraska, a very rural community, and I saw firsthand, the impact that higher education has on a family. I would sit at the kitchen table when my mom would do her homework for her master's degree from the University of Nebraska Medical Center. And it was just astounding just to see the hard work and dedication that she put in, and I knew that that's the path that I wanted to take too. And I ultimately chose the University of Nebraska at Omaha because of its business college, and have never, regretted that decision since.
Yeah, Mammal Hall's a great place. There's no doubt about it. Great leadership, great facilities, great programming, etc. So talk to us again a little bit more about your journey to become student body president and student regent. There may be a good number of students that might think about that, but to actually do it and serve the incredible way that you've represented UNO is quite unique.
Well, thank you, Dr. Gold. I think I first originally joined student government as the director of finance 2 years ago, and I think the reason I wanted to join was I just wanted to be an advocate for student voices. There was a lot of things going on campus, that I was, seeing, and I was like, you know what, I want to be a part of, these decisions, and that's kind of how I got my foot in the door. And then kind of as my term was ending for director of finance, and, the elections were kind of starting to pick up a year ago last year. I was like, you know what, I'm going to throw my, hat in the ring with an amazing team, my VP, DT Rye, and then my chief of staff, Gio Gomez. I have loved my team dearly, and I could not do this without them, and I just thank them as well for their, leadership alongside me and their advocacy work.
So when you went into this, when you were elected at that point, when you knew you were going to be the student regent for a year and the president of student government, did you do it with an agenda? In other words, I mean that in a positive sense. In other words, were there specific things that you wanted to address and to try to improve and use the voice of the student government to be a powerful factor?
Yes, I think kind of starting off, we had, or I guess we kind of found, 5 or 6 different things that we really wanted to change. And then as we kind of got into the term, we're realizing this year is flying by. And so I think we really kind of decided to look through our agenda and kind of hone in on kind of the 2 or 3 more important ones and kind of go from there. And, those 2 or 3 important ones kind of just more led to student advocacy, representation on campus. Some different things that we've done over this year is we introduced a Registered Student Organization Award that our Student Senate gives out, and it just highlights the hard work that the student organizations on campus are doing to get students more involved. And then I actually introduced the Maverick Impact Award, which highlights our student workers on campus at one each month, and it highlights the hard work that they're doing behind the scenes that make the campus so special.
Well, that's so cool, because I know that you've worked so closely with your fellow students and with the Student Senate, but also worked very closely with Chancellor Lee and of course your role on the Board of Regents. So is there an outward-facing part of being a student regent, meaning interacting with the community? Because, UNO is so tightly woven into the Omaha community. We refer to it, of course, as our metropolitan campus because there are no borders of UNO. It's just deeply embedded.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think there is a very outward-facing, role when it comes to this position that I'm in. And I think kind of when I'm looking at the University of Nebraska at Omaha and kind of what it means to the community of Omaha is I really think of it as this like beacon of hope for all the, kids who are currently, in elementary school and high school, middle school. Even some of the community colleges, there's great partnerships between some of the community colleges and, how to transition them into, to maintain that, 4-year degree. And I just think it acts as this, just great place of, students can just come on campus, they can get involved, they can, get a great degree, and then they can, I think most importantly, get an amazing job through many of the amazing internships with some of the amazing businesses we have in Omaha. And then ultimately they get a job and stay here in Nebraska, hopefully.
Right. Great place to live.
Yes.
So do you have any advice for, students growing up in rural Nebraska, going to high school, thinking about college and anything that you want to leave with them?
Yeah, I think the advice that my brother is currently a junior in high school, so he's
So you're actually giving that advice?
Yes, I'm giving that advice, to family.
Not that he may be taking it, but you're giving it.
He tries, and we were fortunate enough to take a tour of the UNL campus just a couple weeks ago with him, kind of getting him excited. And I think the advice that I would give to anyone who's looking at any path of education is I think you definitely need to take it, whether it's higher education, a technical college, community college. Hone in on one of your many skills or one of your hobbies, and so then that way you can leave and get a degree of some sort, and that will really, I think, position you as an individual to really set you up for success in the future.
Well, I think that's very well said, and there's no question that the value of higher education is higher now and more important and more sustainable than it has ever been.
Absolutely.
And you're a great example of that. So I just want to thank you for all that you have done, not just your hard work on the board, but your friendship and your camaraderie. And sitting in the chair of the president, it means a really lot to me to have a solid relationship with all of our student regents, and you've been a champion of that. And I want to take this opportunity to thank you for that.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Gold.
And thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being with us today. And we'll see you on the next episode of Heart to Heart.